In this video, we're going to be learning a Pop 180, both front side and backside. And if you're someone who's completely new to freestyle snowboarding, to doing tricks, this front side pop might be your first taste of having some rotation while in midair. So to dive right into it, a Pop 180 front side will kind of have this body motion. And we're going to be doing this both regular and switch. So if you're trying to take this to the mountain, please have your switch riding on lock, or at least pretty decent. Like you could ride out switch, you could carve a little bit switch before you try doing this on the snow. So as we first learn this trick, it's easier to do this trick initiating from our toe edge and then landing on our toe edge. Of course, you could also do this from heel to heel. It's a lot harder. So when we first start learning this trick, we're going to do a toe to toe front side Pop 180. I know that's kind of a mouthful, but toe to toe front side Pop 180. To start things off, we're going to first learn the body movement of this trick without our board, so we can kind of dial in what it feels like to do this trick before we add the added weight of our snowboard. First things first, we want to establish an uphill and downhill direction. We always want to know where downhill and uphill is, so that when we practice these tricks off snow, it gives us a more sense of where we're supposed to look and where we're supposed to face. If the camera is my downhill direction, I want to pick an object downhill and lock my eyes onto that target. Next, I'm going to get low, pressing down my knees towards the ground so I get onto the section of my foot between my toes and the ball of my feet. From here, when we do this, we're going to be engaging our toe side edge. And we want to get low into athletic position, and we're going to wind up slightly with our upper body turning slightly towards the uphill direction. And I'm going to use my arms and I'm going to throw, unwind, and open my chest up 90 degrees to face downhill. As I do that, I'm going to jump up off the ground and my lower body is going to follow the rotation of my upper body. So you see how after I open up my chest, my legs are going to follow my upper body. So from here, after I open my chest up to face downhill and I'm in midair, I want to pivot my legs in midair. We're going to be doing this. So we're going to be pivoting our lower body to complete the rotation of the 180. The reason we want to do this is because when we're doing a 180, we don't need our entire body to complete a 180 rotation. We just need our board to complete the 180 rotation. For example, if I have my body do a complete 180, it's doable, but there's going to be a big chance of me over rotating because I need more force to bring my whole body 180. And if I'm not very conscious, if I'm not tightening my core all the way, it's very easy to over rotate, and that could cause you to catch an edge. So to prevent this, our upper body only really needs to go 90 degrees and our lower body will go the full 180. And as we're doing this pop frontside 180, we want to make sure that we're jumping from both our feet, having our weight evenly distributed between both feet and popping up both feet. That's what makes a pop a pop. We're not jumping from our front leg, that's an ollie. We're not jumping from our back leg, that's an ollie. We're jumping from both our feet, making it a pop. So to recap, I'm going to wind up and my upper body is going to lead the rotation, opening up my chest to face downhill to start the rotation of this trick. After I'm in midair, my upper body is going to stop rotating, my lower body is going to complete the rotation, and then my upper body is going to follow. So my upper body is not leading the trick the entire way, it's going to lead the initiation, and then my lower body is going to finish the rotation. And please be advised, there are many ways to learn the pop frontside 180. So do not take what I'm teaching here as the law of the land, but rather take it as general guidelines to help you learn this trick. So one common mistake from doing the pop 180s is not getting low enough on our takeoff and landing. So when we want to take off, we want to really get low into an athletic stance so we could have the power to pop up off the ground. And after we land, we also want to bend our knees down, absorbing all this impact by bending our knees. We don't want to land like all stiff-legged like this. Because if we land stiff-legged and the impact shoots through our body, it could cause us to lose our balance. So we always want to start low and end low with all these tricks. So first practice this a few times and get really comfortable with using our arms and our upper body to initiate the rotation, finishing the rotation with our lower body, landing and absorbing the shock. So we want to be able to do this both ways, very comfortably, without even having to think. Next, when you're ready, let's strap into our board and try this with our board on. So just like earlier when we're practicing without our board, we're going to first choose an uphill and downhill direction. So if the camera is my downhill direction, I'm going to find an object. I'm going to lock my eyes onto that object. And I'm going to do the same thing, get low, engaging my toe side edge, pushing my knees down towards the ground, feeling the pressure along this front tongue of my boot, and transferring that pressure onto my toe edge. Next, I'm going to wind up towards the uphill direction, and then I'm going to jump and unwind my chest facing downhill. And my eyes, I want to keep my eyes locked on that target still. So boom, wind up, jump. My eyes still locked on target, and I pivot my lower body in midair. One more time. Remember, we don't need to rotate our upper body that much to complete this frontside pop 180. All we need to do is turn our chest to face 90 degrees downhill, and then turn our board midair and let our board lead the rotation and let our upper body follow our lower body. So let me demonstrate what happens if I use my upper body to do a full 180. You see how it's very easy for me to over rotate when I'm trying to get my upper body to do a complete 180. So remember, for this frontside 180, our upper body doesn't need to do a full 180. It just needs to do about a 90 rotation and let our lower body complete that rotation. And there you have it. You got the frontside pop 180. Now, moving on to the backside pop 180, we're gonna first start this trick once again without our board and just with our body. So I'm gonna get into my snowboard stance. I'm gonna establish a downhill and uphill direction. I'm gonna find a target to lock on downhill, get low, pushing down my knees, engaging my toe side edge. Now I'm gonna wind up towards the front this time. So I'm gonna turn my upper body to face downhill, and then I'm gonna unwind in the backside direction. And remember, if you're doing this regular, this is towards the right. If you're doing this goofy, this is gonna be towards the left. So after I unwind towards the uphill direction, I'm going to pick an object to lock on uphill. So if I pick this tree branch to lock on uphill, I'm going to turn, lock onto the tree branch, and then I'm going to jump and pivot my lower body to complete the 180 rotation while my head remains locked on that target. After my head remains locked on target, I'm going to slowly turn back to find my downhill direction. So one more time, I'm going to start in my snowboarding position, lock onto a target uphill, wind up a little. I'm going to turn my head first to find an uphill target to lock onto. And I'm going to pivot my lower body in midair. So when I pivot my lower body in midair, my upper body, my head and my upper body is going to stay slightly facing uphill. Just like when we're doing the frontside 180, my chest was slightly facing downhill when I'm doing the frontside 180s. When I'm doing the backside 180, my chest is now going to slightly face uphill. So from here, boom, to here, to here. So I'll do this from another angle. If this is uphill, my chest is going to open up to face uphill, and it's going to stay facing uphill after I land. So remember, just like the frontside 180, upper body initiates the rotation, but my lower body completes the full 180 rotation. My upper body is not completing the 180 rotation. Only my lower body and my board is completing the 180 rotation. So after you feel very comfortable doing the body motion, let's strap into our board and try it out. So, downhill, uphill. I'm going to get low, facing downhill, and I'm going to wind up slightly towards the downhill direction. And then I'm going to pop up, jumping off both my feet. I'm going to turn my head to find an object uphill to lock onto and lock onto that target after I jump and after I land. Remember, the backside 180 is a move that requires a blind landing, meaning you're going to land facing uphill. So just bear in mind that you need to have your switch and regular riding both dialed into the point where you can land for a second and not having to worry about immediately having to face downhill again. So you really want to be able to land blind and then slowly come back to facing downhill. And there you have it. That's the pop frontside 180 and the pop backside 180. And I know these tricks aren't the coolest tricks. They don't look super flashy. They don't look super fun to do. But this is going to be the core foundations of learning how to rotate just enough with your upper body and completing that rotation with your lower body. And also, the backside 180 is going to teach you how to spot something uphill and land blind facing uphill. So these are very critical things you need to learn as you continue on doing ground tricks, because we're going to be using a lot of these things in future lessons. And you can also progress the pop 180 to really cool things like do a really deep toe side carve and then pop out of it, land on your switch toe side carve and carve the opposite direction. There's a lot of cool things you could do just with a pop 180. So still spend some time to practice this simple yet foundational trick. So when you get your pop 180s down, you can take it a bit further and just add some more rotation and do a 360. But remember, the 360 is a little bit different than the 180. The 360, when you pop the 360, you have to do a counter rotation with your upper body to stop your rotation. So when I pop a 360, see how the end, I'm going to counter rotate. So if I pop a backside 360, I'm going to counter rotate at the end of my rotation and land kind of facing downhill. But if I pop a frontside 360, I'm going to end up facing uphill. So watch. Downhill, uphill. I'm going to do a backside 360 first. So I'm going to just spin on the ground. So I'm going to do it slowly and demonstrate where to counter rotate. So if I do a 360, spin, counter rotate. And if I do a frontside spin, see how I'm going to counter rotate to stop rotation, and I'm going to face uphill. So same thing when you're doing the pop, you're going to be doing this in midair. So if I do backside, see how I counter rotate at the end, front side, and counter rotate to face uphill. So this is something you're gonna really have to feel out for yourself through repetition. I can only explain the concept to you, but it's really up to you to actually put in the reps and feel where you need to counter rotate yourself. Because everybody's different, we exert power differently, we have different weights. So it's really up to your own experience to learn when to counter rotate and when to turn your body to stop the rotation. So practice this a lot. Remember, these videos don't work unless you do. So just train hard and get a little bit better each day, and you'll get to your goals eventually. Stay buttery.